There's something about the way that we make films at LAIKA that it's just crazy. It makes absolutely no sense. In the case of Kubo, we built an 18-foot skeleton, largest stop motion puppet that had ever been made, and we so easily could have done a smaller scale version, Harryhausen style. We could have done a CG version of that, but everybody was so excited by the idea of creating that skeleton that we all just jump in and we figure it out. We tend to do things the hard way, so it wasn't much of a surprise to me as a supervisor when we figured out the workflow for how we were going to create computer-generated elements that we could use to flesh out environments and tell these stories, that it would be something that would be a complete pain in the neck. It's the visual effects at LAIKA. We never create these elements in a vacuum. And again, it's always informed by physical elements. It's always done through intensive collaboration. And it would be so much easier for us to sort of walk away from the stages and jump behind those computers and start creating things that look cool. But we do it the hard way, and the payoff for that is, I think it's exactly what you're saying, is that we end up with something that feels authentic, but it also feels distinctive. It doesn't feel like anything else that's out there right now in other films. Well, certainly in the Coraline days, when we moved into the warehouse where we do all of this work out in Hillsboro, Oregon, it was just a shell of a building with a big concrete floor and really little to nothing else. So the thing about Coraline was that we were not only making a film, but we were also building a foundation to create movies for LAIKA. So part of that foundation not only became the physical resources, the sets, the puppets, all of the infrastructure, but then on the digital side in visual effects, we had to build a pipeline. And the thing about software and pipelines is that it gets better and better the more that you iterate on it, the more versions of that you do, and it gets more efficient and it enables you to work faster. So certainly we built that infrastructure early on. We created a pipeline which we have continued to iterate on over the course of the last 10 years. The best thing about LAIKA is that the films themselves are certainly films that I think everybody at the studio are intensely proud of when they're done. And that also the culture there is it's amazing. People love to work there. It's exciting. There is a value for work-life balance, which can be sometimes pretty unique in the world of visual effects. And I think that everybody that's there at the studio realizes that we have something really special, right? And so what that means is people don't leave. We have a lot of the same people that worked on Coraline that now most recently worked on Kubo. And over the course of those 10 years, and over the course from Coraline to Paranorman to Box Trolls to Kubo, in creating those films, which got larger and larger in terms of scope and complexity, we made a lot of mistakes, and we learned from those mistakes. And we became better artists, and we became more efficient artists, and our pipeline became more efficient, and the hardware that backs that pipeline became more powerful. So what it's enabled us to do is to work much faster and get even better and more dynamic results. So again, it's a pretty amazing thing, similar to watching Donald Greenberg give his talk yesterday afternoon. And he talks about the progression of technology and how Moore's law and how much faster that the processing power will be from year to year over 18-month cycles. We've experienced a similar thing to that at LAIKA, I think, just in the fact that, again, our technology is getting stronger, our pipeline is getting stronger, our artists are getting better. So we're enabling ourselves to create these films that are much, much larger in scope, basically using a very, very similar budget and production timeline. Well, I've certainly heard Travis speak to the fact many times that he wants each and every one of these films to be distinct in style. And he wants to avoid a studio look or style. Now certainly there's something of that in a LAIKA film because it's all grounded in stop motion animation. But at the same time, in terms of design for all those shows, they are very, very distinctive. So I think that a big challenge is going to be, how do we make sure that each film, as we continue making more and more of them, feels different from the last? How do we continue to challenge ourselves as we create new and different universes? And ultimately create something or films that are really, really unique in the world of animation. There's been a lot of talk recently that at LAIKA we do not make sequels. There's been a lot of talk about the fact that we're interested in creating films that have adult protagonists. That isn't something that you typically see in animated features. There at major studios, there is strategy to making money. And whether it's using superheroes, whether it's using sequels, whether it's using talking animals, all of these strategies that I think drive a lot of studio executives in their decision making, I think is completely dismissed by Travis Knight. And I think Travis is extremely brave in the way that he wants to take animation and stop motion to places where it's never been before, regardless of consequence. Obviously, we want a blockbuster. We want to be able to move a massive number of people. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're telling unique and engaging stories, or as he says, we're making movies that really matter. And that is ultimately driving the decision making and where we're headed. I was here last year. I think, and I've said this many, many times, it's my favorite conference. Maria and Lena and everyone else, they're so welcoming. I love the fact they put us all up at the same hotel. All the speakers are essentially, we're eating breakfast together in our bathrobes. We're going to dinner every night, really, really connecting with each other. And beyond that, even connecting with all the incredible artistic talent that's here in Torino. So it's a very, very special place. You don't often hear people that put on festivals or conferences like this get up at the beginning of the festival and talk about how it is rooted in love. And when Maria Elena said that yesterday, it really hit home. And I think that it's one of the things that truly makes this a unique experience in conference. So I hope that LAIKA will be invited back in the future. And if unless my colleagues want to fight me over it, I hope I get the chance to come back.